Question. Are you finally fed up with feeling exhausted, insecure, unlovable, and having sleepless nights because your brain just won't shut off? Well, great. Why am I laughing? You know why I'm laughing. Because awareness is the first step in getting back through the shadows to your authentic self. The true you, the one that got lost in the shadow of people pleasing. Because this is part two of a four-part series. Last week, we began with the processes of what it looks like to go through self awareness so that you can reclaim your authentic self. Today, we're going to dive deeper into that by evaluating and uncovering one specific shadow part that many people live in the darkness of, and that's people pleasing. Okay, so let's begin, shall we? In an attempt to protect us, shadow parts are created when we are not emotionally ready to be able to, or mature enough to be able to handle certain types of rejection, disappointment, and social pressures. And that's why these parts very often, and these traumas and dramas and such, were created at a young age, where we might have been physically able to look like we could handle things, but emotionally, we were not there yet. So let's begin with your 1, 2, 3, shall we? Around people pleasing. Number one, go back to last week's work and ask yourself the question, why do I choose to be a people pleaser? Because you know you are, and chances are you're not really doing anything about it except for proudly wearing that badge that says, like, I am, where your name would be, and you put people pleaser. So why do you do that? And the questions that you want to ask is, why do I choose to do this? And to just put so much time and effort into other people. And here's the better question, especially when they don't even ask. Okay, and then step number two, or the process is, ask yourself what would or could happen if I said no? And I know that's a bit of a tough question because we may personally be drawing some closure right there. And more importantly, I should have started with this. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. Started with, why do we offer unsolicited advice? People pleasers are loaded with unsolicited advice, and nobody likes it. We don't like it when we get it. I'm still working on this one. That's why I'm laughing. And so the language around this is that I practice regularly is when somebody shares a problem with you, you want to make sure that you don't turn it into you and how you can solve this problem and why. Be a good listener, and then depending on the situation, if it's not relatable, it's never happened to you, then you're going to say just something like, wow, that sucks, or wow, that must be painful, or I can't, imagine what that must be like for you. Is there anything I can do to help or support you? And if they say no, then you better stop talking and simply say, okay, well, just let me know. I want you to know that I'm here for you. Now, if you can relate, it's a story or something that you have gone through, then you can say, well, okay, wait. Begin by saying, I can imagine what that feels like. Watch out for saying something, what's the word? Watch out for saying, see, when I start to train myself, these things fly out of my head. Avoid saying, that exact same thing happened to me, because it didn't. You might think the exact same thing happened to you, but all of our stories are different. Okay, so if something similar happened, like say for example, I'm a widow, right? So if I heard another widow story, instead of saying, oh my gosh, I know I'm a widow too, I can tell you exactly how to get through this. Nope, nope, nope. You will say, I'm also a widow, and I've learned a few things to help me get through it. Can I share them with you? Be prepared for them to say no. And then you say, okay, well, I'm here for you if you need anything. If they say yes, woohoo! However, here's the next challenge. And I'm laughing because I'm training myself on all of these still. I'm rewiring my own neural pathways. Avoid telling your story, people, This is not the opportunity. So they share their story of heartbreak or whatever it might be, and then you share yours and what you learned from it. No, it's not about you, it's about them. And so you'll simply say, I went through something similar, and I'd like to share some things that I learned that I wish I knew then. Are you interested? And if they say no, then you're done. If they say yes, then no story. Just start with what you learned. Well, what I learned was, okay, so it takes some practice, but it's worth it. And then the other thing about learning how to say no is here's your language. Oh, can you help with the blah, blah, blah committee or this, that, or the other thing? You're going to find a way to say this authentically from your heart. So practice it in the mirror. Thanks for thinking of me. I'm honored. However, you may or may not know that I'm also doing this, and this because people pleasers have tons of things on their plate. So I wish you well in finding somebody that can do it justice. And then you stop. You stop it right there. You wish them well and on their way. You know, and the other thing about being a people pleaser, and people don't even ask, is it's so frustrating because very often they won't even say thanks. And we get hurt or whatever emotion around that because we were trying to be helpful and we got no reward from it. And they didn't ask. So if somebody asks, hey, can you take me to the airport? Sure, it's polite for them to say thanks when they're getting out of the car, right? And maybe give you a hug, whatever. But if they didn't ask and they said they were going on a trip and you said, oh my gosh, I'd be happy to take you to the airport, and then you take them, you did it for you because it made you feel good to be of service. So I hope that makes sense. It's a little bit convoluted, but at the same time, it really cuts through the BS of people pleasing and helps you decide what you want to do and how you want to invest your time. Okay, so let's review. Ask good questions, right? So the questions are, why am I doing this? What am I getting out of this? Why is it challenging for me to say no? And then secondly, practice the saying the no. And, thank you for thinking of me. And remember to not offer unsolicited advice by any stretch of the imagination. If somebody, says, yeah, I'm interested in hearing what you have to say, no story, just the facts, ma'am. And then lastly, the most important step number 3, I'm going to say chant this mantra often. I'm going to use those words. What other people think of me is none of my business. And that's the truth. Say it loud, say it often, say it in your head, say it while you're walking down the street. Not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody's going to need you. And that's all okay. Concentrate on the people who do love and appreciate you and why they do love and appreciate you. Then next week in part 3, we're going to talk about boundaries and the shadow work around boundaries. So hop on my calendar. Let's chat. This is the work that I do. I am not a mental health professional. I'm Elle Graniel, the founder of Truespeak, and a over 30-year research into the 30 years. Yeah, wow. Okay, distracted my own self. I've had decades of research in the neuroscience behind the reward centers of the brain, the habanula, and how to break free from not only people pleasing, but imposter syndrome and so much more. So I'm looking forward to spending more time with you. And until next week, stay happy and healthy, my friends.